Excellencies and distinguished speakers, on behalf of Cosmos Foundation, I'm Catherine Gardner, and I'd like to welcome you today to the Bangladesh-Turkey webinar, Prognosis for the Future. On behalf of Cosmos Foundation, I'll run through the program itinerary for today's event on our media partner, United News of Bangladesh, details of which will be shared with all of you. Today, we will commence with our welcome remarks by Mr. Inayatullah Khan, Chairman of Cosmos Foundation, who will then hand over to Dr. Iftikhar Ahmed Chowdhury, and he will deliver his remarks. The keynote address will be delivered by His Excellency, Mr. Mustafa Osman Turan, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Bangladesh. Our speakers are Mr. Shafkat Munir, Research Fellow and Head at Bangladesh Center for Terrorism Research at BIPPS, Munich Youth Leader. Dr. Lalufar Yasmin, Professor, Department of International Relations, Dhaka University. Ambassador Tariq Karim, Honorary Advisory Emeritus, Cosmos Foundation. Thank you, and we very much look forward to our discussions today. I'll now hand it over to Mr. Inayatullah Khan to commence our session.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. It's my privilege to welcome all today the distinguished ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Bangladesh, His Excellency, Mr. Mustafa Osman Turan. The Cosmos Foundation has emerged as an important forum for deliberating on Bangladesh's relations with friendly states, and one of the countries that are on top of the list of our friends undoubtedly is Turkey. Therefore, our webinar today is of special significance to us. I also welcome to our webinar a set of stellar personalities as discussants, Shafkat Munir, Dr. Lalufar Yasmin, and Ambassador Tariq Karim. I have every confidence that their contributions will enhance the quality of today's deliberations and enrich our output. Prior to assuming his current important responsibilities, Ambassador Turan acquired vast experience as a career diplomat posted in Italy, Albania, Macedonia, Kosovo, Austria, Afghanistan, and Belgium. In Dhaka, we commend his relentless endeavors in cementing our bilateral relations. Bengali Muslims, all through history, have been among the strongest supporters of Turkey's war of independence following the First Great War. It's well known that father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was inspired by the bravery and vision for a secular Muslim majority country of the 20th century espoused by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of the modern Turkish state. In the 20s and 30s, our national poet Qazi Nazrul Islam, who is read in every single household in Bangladesh, composed multiple poems in praise of Kemal Atatürk. Today, I have friends in the broadcast media who are constantly on the lookout for the next hit epic drama of Turkey that they will license to run their channels dubbed in Bengali. Almost every entertainment channel in the country today has one. All this contributes to create this enormous goodwill that exists between our peoples. And the responsibility lies with us all to build on it further. Under the current Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, relations between Dhaka and Ankara have grown stronger. It is President Erdogan's strong and consistent stance on the Rohingya issue since it exploded onto the international stage in 2017, with nearly 1 million refugees crossing the border into Bangladesh to seek shelter here, that Bangladeshis find most praiseworthy. His leadership within the OIC, in which both countries play important roles, was instrumental in fellow member state, the Gambia, moving the International Court of Justice in 2019 to bring charges of ethnic cleansing and genocide against the Myanmar army in the treatment of the Rohingya. Bangladeshis are deeply grateful to President Erdogan for never failing to raise this issue at every available opportunity in global fora. The Honorable First Lady of Turkey has paid a personal visit to refugee camps in Cox's Bazar, a visit that brought joy to many sad hearts. Since 2012, Bangladesh and Turkey have been in talks to sign a free trade agreement. But the agreement is yet to be finalized. In the intervening years, some misunderstanding, unfortunately, had developed between the two governments, but thankfully these were resolved and brushed aside following Dhaka's mature stance against a failed coup attempt in Turkey in late 2015. Since 2016, ties have been on the mend once again, and through Turkey's sincere and committed response to the Rohingya crisis, especially in the medical field, the differences have been resolved, and today Bangladesh and Turkey are once again in a position to explore the significant potential in their relationship that remains unmet. For almost a decade now, bilateral trade between the two nations has remained at around 1 billion mark. At various times since talks on the FTA began, hopes have been raised of boosting trade to 3 billion, 5 billion, or even 10 billion. But having said that, the future of relationship has never looked brighter than it does today. And with capable leadership and seasoned diplomats such as Ambassador Turan helming the ship, I truly believe this time we will not miss the opportunity. Some big shifts are taking place. The Bangladeshi security establishment has been highly impressed with successive consignments of defense purchases from Turkey's highly innovative and growing weapons manufacturers. Pursuant to those in June 2021, just 6 months ago, a government-to-government defense memorandum of understanding was signed between Bangladesh and Turkey. This signals an intent to institutionalize their relationship at the highest levels, and cooperation in this sector may act as the anchor for relations to soar to the expected levels in the years ahead. Needless to say, the opportunities exist also in a plethora of other avenues, from education to textiles and the all-important health sector as we emerge from the pandemic in 2022. They lie waiting to be taken across a broad spectrum, and I think the people on both sides are today ready to take them. We are following the progress in Turkey regarding the local manufacture of COVID-19 vaccine. We hope that when its production goes online, Turkey will be able to help greatly to lessen the sufferings of humanity due to this catastrophe. We are bound by the bonds of strong cultural affinity from my childhood. I have learned to admire Rumi, whose teachings have continued to shape the minds of many in our country. These sentiments have happily been reflected in our political and economic ties. It is my fervent hope that this webinar will enable us to discuss these issues threadbare. We also hope that we will be able to come up with ideas as to how to widen and deepen the collaboration between our two brotherly nations to our mutual benefit. We are delighted this webinar would be conducted and chaired by Foreign Affairs Advisor, Dr. Iftikhar Ahmed Chaudhry. He needs no introduction. We are also very proud that he continues to be the chairman and president of our foundation. So over to Iftikhar Chaudhry.
Thank you, Inayat. Thank you very much, and also for your kind introduction. I'm delighted to be able to conduct a discussion on Turkey, a country, a nation for whom I have always entertained the profoundest regards. Ambassador Mustafa Osman Turan, I warmly welcome you to this event. I haven't had the opportunity of an in-person meeting with you, but I've followed your work and seen and heard your media interview. And I must say I'm deeply impressed by your commitment and dedication. I'm sure your contribution will take our bilateral relations to yet greater heights. Turkey has inspired us since as far back as recorded history can go. Its language and its literature, its culture and cuisine, its personalities, including its poets, have always influenced our thought and action. In modern times, the impact of the Ataturk, Mustafa Kemal Pasha, has been stupendous. Today, President Recep Erdogan occupies a permanent niche in our hearts. Even if in our spare times, when our families sit in front of television, we are stirred by the charisma and courage of Ghazi Ertugrul. Indeed, recently at a seminar in Singapore, I've spoken of the soft power projection on behalf of Turkey of this heroic figure. Happily, these sentiments have been translated into action in the field and real life, And that is why we have this exceedingly high order of bilateral relations, as Anayat has just described, be it in politics, economics, cultural linkages, common values, aspirations, or shared ideals, both domestically and in the wider arena of foreign relations. Also our membership of the D8. As an observer of international affairs, I wish to stress the immense potentials of this grouping if appropriately tapped. At a personal level, I must say that in some of the many years that I've spent as ambassador and PR to the United Nations in New York, or even earlier, in New York, Turkey and Bangladesh shared the same office premises. In that, we were located in the Turkish building. Obviously, we shared more than the building. Later, when I was in public life, I developed a very warm relationship with my Turkish counterpart, Foreign Minister Ali Babacan. Bangladeshi and Turkish diplomats have also shared, among other things, a common lesson from the great poet Rumi, whom Anayat has cited. And Rumi had said that in reasoning and debates, raise your words and not your voice. It is rain that grows flowers and not thunder. All these elements and more we shall discuss with the galaxy of fine minds that comprise our panel this morning. I extend to each of one of them my very warm greetings. Each discussant will speak after the keynote speaker for a period of 10 minutes. But for now, to initiate the discussion, might I invite you, Ambassador Turan, to the microphone. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind invitation to this gathering of great minds. I've been following Cosmos dialogue with ambassadors and high commissioners. It's always very informative, very thought-provoking. Thank you, Mr. Enayatullah Khan. I hope to meet you sometime soon, whenever you are in Bangladesh. Dr. Iftekhar Ahmet Chowdhury, also grateful to you for your kind introduction. Both Mr. Khan and your introductions have given me an opportunity to really readjust my initial remarks, responding to your points, because you made some really important points, summarizing deep-rooted, long history of our nations. So I'd like to start by my personal experience in Bangladesh. You know, this is my first post as an ambassador, and I've arrived almost 2 years ago. And since I arrived, I'm actually very touched by the kindness and generosity of the people here. You know, flowers and gifts, addas, long, deep conversations at dinner tables and cafes, spontaneous invitations, melancholy and joy, hard work, resilience, all in one social field. You know, it kind of captured my dedication to my work because it provides the basis for our work here. Every Turkish citizen who arrives in Bangladesh receives the same treatment, this profound regard, as you said, we feel. And these feelings are mutual, and they are not, you know, based on just personal feelings, but also a collective, I think, consciousness about this relationship. Obviously, you mentioned the historical aspects of it, such as, you know, the Sufi mystics, you know, coming to Bangladesh from Turkey in the, you know, back in the centuries of 12, 13, or even before that. We have recently organized the Sufi encounters gatherings in Bangladesh, and with Turkish Sufi musicians and whirling dervishes, I was able to witness how, you know, how much we are bound together through this spiritual experience that we had throughout history. Yesterday, we celebrated the 748th death anniversary of Rumi. I was in a webinar speaking, and that also made me realize, you know, the sort of the wisdom that has been offered by Sufism is something that really is common in both of our countries. Obviously, you mentioned the great poet Kazi Nazrul Islam and how he was the bridge between Kemal Atatürk and Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in proposing new modern states in both of our countries based on basically secularism, nationalism, and the common characteristics of our nations coming closer through these great leaders. Obviously, we can find every day. I find new anecdotes in our history and culture. Seeing the tangible examples of this very close ties. Streets named after Kemal Atatürk. Many different examples are available. Just recently, we have inaugurated. Foreign Minister Momen was in Ankara together with the mayor of Dhaka North City Corporation, Mr. Islam, to inaugurate the bust of Bangabandhu in the street named after him. And also a park was named after Bangabandhu as a gesture in this year of celebrations for, the Mujib Borsho and also the Golden Jubilee. Lots of examples can be cited, but I think one needs to go beyond symbolic gestures in the international relations. We need to really base our relations on mutual interests and not just on shared feelings. Some, again, very significant points were made both by Mr. Khan and yourself, Dr. Chowdhury, regarding issues of trade, defense industry, political relations, and also some potential avenues which we can explore in the near future. Bangladesh's journey in the last 50 years has been remarkable in the sense that it has provided, hope, not just for the people in Bangladesh, but also for its friends and partners. Because now I think we can develop the partnership that is potentially mutually beneficial in many different fields, not just in the garments industry, but also, these emerging sectors such as pharmaceuticals industry, the health sector, the ICT sector, obviously defense industry is prominent in the list. But there are many different sectors, and we are now exploring all these opportunities. Recently, a business delegation from Turkey was here in Bangladesh, attending the International Investment Summit organized by BIDA. And it was the second strongest delegation after Saudi Arabia in terms of the composition of the delegation, led by a businesswoman, Mrs. Hülya Gedik. And soon we will also convene a joint economic commission, co-chaired by two ministers on both sides. And we are also hoping that our political consultations will also take place in Dhaka very, very soon at the deputy minister's level. And after that, we are hoping that our bilateral relations will see its peak when hopefully our leaders will visit once again our countries. There were visits at the level of foreign ministers recently. As you all know, last year, Foreign Minister Momen was in Turkey to inaugurate Bangladesh's embassy in Ankara, which is a beautiful building. And I was also there attending the ceremony. And our embassy here in Dhaka is also a new one. And I think both in terms of architecture and in terms of the events that we organize in this new building, we are trying to make a good contribution to the active social and diplomatic life in Dhaka. As I said, we recently organized a Sufi Encounters evening in the garden of our embassy. In terms of the geostrategic developments, I think Turkey and Bangladesh are natural allies in this region. Both countries pursue a foreign policy of we call it peace at home, peace in the world. Bangladesh calls it friendship to all, malice to none. We are both the two countries which contribute highest number of peacekeeping troops to the UN peacekeeping operations. I was very impressed by the parade, the victory parade, and how Bangladesh proudly displayed its personnel and equipment that they contribute to these peacekeeping operations. So with this peace-oriented foreign policy, I think we can only contribute to stability and welfare in the world, but also in our regions. We hope that Bangladesh, with its growing economy and political self-confidence, will take active initiatives also in this region to establish, peaceful and cooperative international relations. Turkey has declared its Asia a new foreign policy back in 2019, when I was in Ankara at that time. Our foreign minister declared Asia a new policy, and similar to our policy in Africa, which aims to establish both stronger bilateral relations with the regional countries. We are also hoping that through international regional organizations in Asia, we would like to contribute more to peaceful and prosperous relations in Asia. As you know, Turkey's foreign policy is quite active in many different parts of the world. And also the peace and stability in Asia is extremely significant for us. So Bangladesh is our natural partner in this part of the world. And through our bilateral relations, which are advancing in all fields, we hope to contribute to this foreign policy that both of our countries aims towards peace and stability. There are many issues that I would like to talk about, but I will stop here. So maybe in response to your comments and questions, we can explore more in each and every one of these points. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. You're absolutely right to say that the relationship should go beyond symbolism and should be built on the ground of mutual interests. That we are natural allies, both based on the fact that, as you said, that you have this principle of following the culture of peace at home and peace in the world, and we have our expression of friendship towards all and malice towards none. So there are bases for this common understanding, and indeed you have described the way the relationship and the cooperation have been built over the years. What we will do now is I will give the floor to each of the three discussants for 10 minutes each, that is, and thereafter you will have the opportunity to respond to the points raised or any additional thoughts that you might have between now and then to share with us. So on my list, I have these three very distinguished speakers. I have Shafkat Munir, who's research fellow and head of Bangladesh Center of Terrorism, BIPSS. And then we have Professor Lailufar Yasmin of the Department of International Relations, Dhaka University, and of course our Ambassador Tariq Karim, who is our Honorary Advisor Emeritus of the Cosmos Foundation. So I shall begin with Shafkat Munir. Mr. Shafkat Munir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. At the outset, please allow me to express my gratitude to Cosmos Foundation for inviting me to be here this morning. Your Excellency, Ambassador Turan, wonderful to see you again. Turkey, as the Chair and before that Mr. Khan has also said, evokes very strong emotions in Bangladeshis. It was the national poet of Bangladesh, Qazi Nazrul Islam, who at the outset of, right after the Turkish War of Independence, had written that epic poem Kamal Pasha, which throughout the years we have all read. And for us, Turkey has always been synonymous with Kemal Atatürk, and Kemal Atatürk has always been synonymous with Turkey. I remember in my own experience when I went to Ankara for the first time, how thrilled and overjoyed I was when I went to Anıtkabir to visit the mausoleum of the great man. Turkey for us has also been a model of how a secular Muslim majority country can play its rightful role in the world, how it can balance between religion, culture, identity, and various aspects that make a nation. I would like to pay my compliments to Ambassador Turan that under his leadership, the Embassy of Turkey in Bangladesh has done a tremendous job in taking Turkey-Bangladesh relations to greater heights. Every day when we read about new strides being achieved in the relationship, it's really very impressive. I want to confine my remarks with the permission of the chair to the realm of defense and security cooperation. That's the area that I understand best, and I'll leave the other aspects to other esteemed panelists. As the ambassador has also pointed out in his remarks, defense and security cooperation is an area where the embassy, Ankara and Dhaka are attaching a lot of importance to. And as I was doing my research for this session this morning, I was quite impressed with the numbers and the historical track record of our defense cooperation with Turkey. When I saw that nearly 3,000 officers of the Bangladesh Armed Forces have trained in Turkey, that's a very impressive figure. And our cooperation on defense and security is no longer between the armed forces alone. I'm very heartened to see that the Bangladesh Ansar, which is a paramilitary force of Bangladesh, is also currently training its own special forces personnel in Turkey. There are countries with which we have excellent cooperation in defense, but it's mostly army to army. But Turkey is one country where all three services have a very high degree of cooperation. Very recently, we have had the visit by the Turkish Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Özbal. It's also very impressive to see that the new Army Chief of Bangladesh, General SM Shafiuddin Ahmed, after he took over in June, his first meeting with a foreign diplomat was with Ambassador Turan, and his first visit outside Bangladesh was to Turkey, both to Ankara and Istanbul. So that just goes to show the depth of the relationship that currently exists. But it is not new. Right from the 70s, Bangladesh and Turkey have had very significant military exchanges, whether in terms of visits by the chiefs of general staff from Turkey or our military leaders to Turkey, whether in terms of participation in Turkish-led NATO exercises, whether in terms of exchanges with the Turkish Air Force, or attendance of Turkish institutions of military learning, such as the famous General Staff War Academy in Istanbul. So it is a continuing trend. But what we are seeing right now is an upscaling in terms of bilateral cooperation, particularly in the area of defense acquisition and technology. And as I think Ambassador Turan has recently mentioned in an interview, that Turkey is willing to enter into new joint ventures with Bangladesh in terms of defense technology and defense acquisition. And as our three armed services are currently in the throes of significant expansion in the coming days, both in the land, maritime, and the airspace, there are major needs for augmenting our kit. And there, I think Turkey can play an important role. And a good example in this regard is in terms of the expansion of the artillery of Bangladesh Army. And I'm very heartened to say that the recent acquisition of the TRG-300 multiple launch rocket systems has indeed been a force multiplier in our artillery expansion. Similarly, there are already talks underway between Bangladesh and Turkey based on the recent agreement that has been signed to acquire ships in the maritime space. And there is also talk about enhancing Air Force cooperation as well. But in the Army in particular, I mean, Bangladesh, although with respect to our other two services, but the Army will always occupy a very important role because our primary threats, our primary concerns are still land-based. And therefore, in the army, we see many opportunities for cooperation. I've already mentioned about cooperation in terms of expansion and development of our artillery. But there has also been a lot of discussion lately about whether we can learn from Turkey's experience of employment of unmanned aerial vehicles or drones, especially in light of some of the recent conflicts that have taken place where Turkey's drone technology has been quite instrumental. So whether we could learn from that and use some of that technology in Bangladesh as well. Moreover, I have had the opportunity to visit Turkey on multiple occasions and see some of your defense industry. There are many other platforms where I think Bangladesh could really benefit from Turkish cooperation, especially in the area of mechanized warfare, also in terms of armored personnel carriers, your technology in terms of battlefield simulation. I think those are areas I think where new grounds can be broken into. Military training and education has been a very important hallmark of Bangladesh-Turkey defense cooperation. So I would humbly request the ambassador that if, and we have discussed this before when we met you, that I think Bangladesh should greatly benefit if we could get more opportunities for Bangladeshi military personnel to train in Turkey in your various centers of excellence of military learning. And I know language sometimes can be an issue because your medium of instruction is in Turkish, but that has never stopped us from sending more officers to Turkey, to your institutions, who have learned the language and then taken part in the training. So there is an opportunity to enhance cooperation in that field. There is also an opportunity for Bangladesh and Turkey to cooperate more in the area of between our two strategic communities. There are excellent think tanks in Turkey, many of which have interacted with their Bangladeshi counterparts. And as I've mentioned before, we have had the opportunity to work with a number of Turkish think tanks. And as we look at enhanced defense and security cooperation, I think there's an opportunity or there is a need for our two strategic communities to come together and actually discuss more with each other about our worldview, about how we look at regional and global affairs, and seek a common understanding on many of these issues. For instance, a very pressing issue before us right now is Afghanistan. What is happening in Afghanistan, what could be the regional fallout, and I know Ankara takes a very keen interest in that as well. So there are opportunities for Dhaka and Ankara to have more discussions on that issue. On the Rohingya crisis, I think Mr. Khan has already very eloquently mentioned that how Turkish support was absolutely crucial. And as the Rohingya crisis enters its 5th year, we will continue to seek Ankara's cooperation, Ankara's support, both in the global fora or also within the OIC to seek a peaceful solution to this problem. Turkish soft power is also something that I'm sure other speakers will also talk about, but I just want to briefly touch upon it. And I want to take a cue from what the chair mentioned about the drama Ertugrul and the seminar that was held at ISAS with the institute with which I'm also affiliated. I think Turkish soft power, we have seen a real exponential growth. It's not just Ertugrul or Sultan Suleiman or the serials that we watch, but a large number of Bangladeshis also watch Turkish serials dubbed in Hindi and Urdu, which are also available on YouTube. So I think within the soft power realm, there is a real opportunity for further expansion. And I think we don't need a greater example than the recent Sufi music evenings that the Embassy of Turkey had organized, and how significantly popular and welcome they were, especially in this COVID-ized circumstances. So I don't want to take too much of the time, but I want to sort of sum up by saying that in terms of defense and security, there are multiple areas of cooperation. Counterterrorism is an area where Turkey has got great experience, and where Bangladesh in recent times has acquired a lot of experience, particularly in terms of countering violent extremism, countering the gender aspect of violent extremism. And there are lessons that we can also share with Turkey. So I think in defense and security cooperation, there are many areas where we can work together. I would say that let us build on what we have achieved so far. Let us build on the goodwill that exists between the two countries. Let us build on the goodwill that exists between the two armed forces. And I'm very confident, Ambassador, that under your leadership, we will see greater strides being achieved between Turkey and Bangladesh in defense and security. And there's a lot more that we can do, and we are only limited by our imagination. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Shafkat. Thank you very much for those very informed remarks on defense and security cooperation. It's indeed quite striking that about over 3,000 officers of the Bangladesh Armed Forces have received to date training in Turkey. And it's not just confined to the, as you've said, Army, Navy, and Air Force. It's also spreads across to the other paramilitary forces, particularly Ansar. The fact that Turkey is also a member of NATO gives us an opportunity, sort of some kind of a window to discuss wider aspects of cooperation on the global matrix. Equipment, very important. I mean, you mentioned drones, you mentioned APCs, you mentioned rocketry, which buttress artillery. That's also very, very significant. And then you brought up Afghanistan, and I'd love to hear Ambassador's views on this, how Turkey can cooperate in stabilizing Afghanistan. I know that at one point in time it was being considered that Turkey would run the Kabul airport. I would like to hear if there has been any progress in the relationship with the Taliban. So thank you, Shafkat. And now it's my great pleasure to give the floor to Dr. Lailafur Yasmin, who's professor in the Department of International Relations at Dhaka University. Dr. Yasmin.
Thank you very much to Cosmos Foundation to invite me in this very interesting discussion on Turkey and Bangladesh relations, because we do not see paying attention to some of the burgeoning issues that need to be in the discourse, because we are forgetting that we always look up to the West or the East, talk about China or America, but there are other countries who are contributing in such a manner that often remains very unnoticed. His Excellency Mustafa Osman Turan, marhaba. I had the chance of staying in Istanbul for 3 months for my PhD. That Turkey is one of my case studies. That was back in 2010, and I lived near Istiklal Caddesi. So that area, every single day, I used to walk around the park and the major destinations over there, and that was a fascinating experience for me. So marhaba has different meanings in Bangladeshi discourse. It means something, and it took me about 2-3 days to understand what marhaba means in Turkish discourse. But it was a pleasure, and Turkish coffee, and seeing how people gather around in the evening on the street side and having coffee, and what we call adda in Bangladeshi context. It happens in Turkish context as well. But I'm sure you have a new different kind of word to describe that. But I saw how these two countries, they can at some level, they can join together to create more affinity by identifying what are the commonalities of two cultures. So this cultural commonality can be one of the areas which can be the basis of creation of formidable bilateral relations. Let me come to my discussion. I will point out first from international perspective and then from bilateral perspective. When we are talking about international order, we can see that how locations of power, the way they were seen during the Cold War period, during the 20th century, that has so much, so much that has become very, shaky during 21st century. 21st century, we do not see any responsible power taking, making their statements on international issues, and we can see that the only superpower, how it is sort of dawdling in taking decisions, how it is faltering in taking decisions. And one of the primary markers of current international order is that we see the rise of a number of pacts, number of alliances with overlapping actors, and therefore those security pacts are not able to work. Those alliances or economic cooperations are not able to work. So we can see how international order has become very, very different than what we have seen in the 20th century. So here I can see the rise of the middle powers and the role of the middle powers. And in this context, Turkey has taken a proactive foreign policy as a middle power, being a transcontinental country itself. Therefore, I find that Turkey's role internationally, His Excellency has also mentioned how proactive Turkey is, and my other colleagues here, they have also mentioned. So we believe that as a middle power, Turkey, with this unique geopolitical situation, geopolitical standing and location, it will be able to sort of play a proactive role in international politics. Already we have seen in the case of Rohingya issue how Turkey came forward while other countries were taking time how to manage, how to address to this issue, how to engage with Bangladesh, but Turkey did not hesitate. And this is for this we have eternal gratitude to Turkey to internationalize the issue, to continuously support Bangladesh in different forums. So that way we can see how Turkey also sees itself as a middle power, which is going to address two issues that are of not only Turkey's interest but also interest of the maintaining balance and peace in international politics. As Ambassador His Excellency said, that the sort of basis of Turkish foreign policy is peace at home, peace in the world. So it was driven by that particular idea about international politics. Let me come to bilateral relations. As other speakers have already said, that there have not been a better time, better chapter in Turkey-Bangladesh relations than exists now. We have seen that in a number of issues in terms of trade, this is the first year that the bilateral trade has touched the mark of $1 billion. And in the past 9 months, actually, the growth has been phenomenal. The Turkey-Bangladesh bilateral trade has increased by 20%, which is excellent. And the team that His Excellency mentioned, with them, their discussion with DCCI, a number of areas were identified. For example, renewable energy, automobile, healthcare, shipbuilding, healthcare, and home appliances. These are the areas that Turkey can make its investment in Bangladesh. Also, Interestingly, as Turkey has taken up Asia ANU initiative, that is re-engaging with Asia as its foreign policy priority, that actually puts Bangladesh in a very favorable position, because we have been able, we have created about 100 special economic zone where a number of countries are coming to, coming for investment. So we welcome Turkish investment in these areas as well. And what are the other areas in terms of economic cooperation? Pharmaceuticals and ICT. These are two areas, because I'm sure many of the speakers present here know that Bangladesh is now second largest online labor supplier globally. So Turkey can take advantage of this rising ICT power, strength of Bangladesh, and can engage with Bangladesh in this area. In this year, if I'm not much mistaken, in April, Turkey transferred the chairpersonship of D8 to Bangladesh Foreign Ministry. So there we have another sort of area where we can connect with the rest of the 6 countries, Turkey and Bangladesh, and we can identify joint areas of cooperation, developing our business potential and other areas. In terms of defense and strategic issues, Shafkat has already covered a number of areas. I would just like to point out a few of the areas. As we know that Turkey, 75% of its defense supplies come from its internal sources. So that's a big incentive for Bangladesh to get engaged with Turkey. And also in terms of technology transfer or joint venture, as His Excellency mentioned in a couple of weeks back in a program, that these are the areas that Bangladesh defense sector can be benefited through joint ventures or technology transfer. There is another area where I would like to point out, as Bangladeshi, officers go to Turkey for training. So I would request, because I teach at the Defense Staff College, I've been teaching there for now for 6-7 years. So we do not see many Turkish officers coming here. So that will be highly beneficial if you send Turkish officers to Staff College as well as National Defense College. So that is another area that the cooperation can take a bigger sort of form. So in terms of soft power, yes, the way Bangladesh has created, the way we have celebrated our 50th anniversary, it shows that from 1971, only 50 years, how far we have come. So Bangladesh have a certain unique areas that we can also sort of exchange and have talks with our Turkish counterparts. For example, incentivizing girl children to stay at home. There is a program which was initiated around 1978, 1979 in Bangladesh, where Bangladeshi girl children in school level, they were given a scholarship, which was not probably much in terms of money, but that actually helped preventing the dropout of girl children from schools. So this particular example is replicated in many African countries, and they have been benefited following Bangladesh's example. Of course, it has to be context specific, not only toe-to-toe replication, but it has to be context specific. So those are the areas that we can actually work together. Then in the areas of exchanging arts, culture, academics, this is the area I think Bangladesh and Turkey can work together. I have stayed in Istanbul for 3 months, and I saw that how impressed people were by seeing, I'm not very tall, by seeing a very small Bangladeshi girl roaming around alone, and they were saying that, how are you doing that? How are you speaking in English? And all of this, because we do not know each other at the person-to-person level. So people-to-people contact is something that can create a formidable relationship between the two countries, and we can know each other better. And let me also add about my shopping list from Istanbul. My house has very fine sitters which I bought from Turkish Bazaar, Turkish coffee, which of course consumed by now, and then the small cups, special Turkish cup, mugs for coffee. So all of these will have, and you can see in the Bonani area how these are sold, how there is a huge market of Turkish goods and this particular type of goods. And Turkish embroidery is something that I have not seen in many areas, because those are a bit of high scale, upscale, a bit expensive products. So those are yet to make their way through here. And we also have Nakshi Katha and other sort of products and Jamdani, which Turkish, which can be exported to or make known to Turkish markets. So there are many areas that we can improve upon, because we can play with each other's strength, each other's areas of strength, and people-to-people contact would be a fascinating area to make each other known and be even better friends than we are today. I hope I've touched upon the areas that will be beneficial, and later on, if you have any questions or any areas to expand upon, I'll be happy to talk to. Thank you.
Marhaba, Dr. Yasmin, well spoken. Well, I like the way you've structured your remarks, from the international perspective to bilateral, and your theoretical underpinning that with the major powers sparring, there is a scope for middling powers like Turkey, and I would assume ourselves, to play a role in the international arena. And you have mentioned D8, and we would, this is something also I've mentioned in my initial remarks, and love to hear the ambassador's views on this. Also, your personal experience, 3 months experience in Turkey, does well. We would do well to emulate that experience in enhancing what we call our people-to-people relationship. So, well done, Yasmin. So, now we go to Ambassador Tariq Karim, our senior foreign policy expert, for his remarks over the next few minutes. Ambassador Karim, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ifti. Thank you, Inayat, once again for convening this and inviting me to be a participant. Marhaba to you, my friend Usman Bey. We've benefited from the sittings that you and I have had since soon after your arrival. I think most of what needed to be covered has been covered in details, both aspects of the military security aspects of our cooperation that are just beginning to rediscover itself, as well as the various other factors of hard and soft power relationship that needs to be established by Lailafur in her comments. A response to what Mustafa Bey said earlier, focusing beyond the symbolism. And I agree totally with that. So I already see a large degree of cooperation emerging from that, and much of that has already been covered by Shafqat and Lailafur already. You know, the nitty-gritty of reviving relationships is always difficult, particularly when somehow one or the other has forgotten the historical and cultural and ancient roots that used to tie them together. This is very, very natural in human nature. Children forget their grandfathers and great-grandfathers. They may just remember the immediate father. In a sense, in subcontinent, the Turkish influence in Muslim Bengal and the Muslim part of the subcontinent indeed, but particularly in Bengal, has been largely forgotten. People forget that Islam, in a sense, came here with the Sufi teachers, and many of them came through the route via Turkey. Turkish rulers established rule over what is now Bengal since the mid or late 12th century, well into the late 14th century, almost 300 years. Unfortunately, later on, after 1487, and it was during the last Turkish ruler here that actually Bengal expanded its expanse, its economic and political expanse over this part of the region. Our history has been overshadowed by the legacy of the Afghans and the Mughals. And in the process, we totally forgot that a lot was contributed much earlier for the foundations of those rules to come because of Turkish rulers coming in here. Turkey, it played a significant role in establishment of a Muslim society in Bengal. It gave Muslim culture a very definite shape. It built mosques, madrasas, and madrasas not in the narrow sense that we understand them today, but madrasas as centers for learning of Islam and other sciences, and khanqahs. In a sense, khanqahs have totally fallen off the stage in Bangladesh in a sense. I grew up visiting khanqahs with my parents and grandparents. That is where our spiritual strength was derived from. And they talked beyond just spiritual learning. They patronized Muslim ulamas. Turkish rulers had actually, they did what we have learned about in Western history, burning your boats and bridges behind you. When they came here, they destroyed the bridges they used to cross to come here. They burned the boats that could take them back home. They merged with Bengali society. They lived here, they intermarried, and what we have today is a meld of that culture. Unfortunately, that has been shelved or elbowed to the side by invasive cultural intrusions into Bangladesh mental space, and in a sense, largely the spiritual or so-called spiritual space. So these, and of course, Turkish Sultan patronized both Persian and Bangla arts and literature, and even Hindu poets. So that is where the basis of a secularism comes. So having said that, we can never underestimate nor relegate to total oblivion the importance of the historical spiritual bonds that were established between Turkey and Bengalis in the early or late 12th century, that stayed with us until the late 15th century almost. And then it's been there somewhere lurking deep in our recesses. We need to revive that. You will remember Mustafa Bey, that in our early conversation I said, help revive the bonds that tied us or brought us together in the first place. You know, when I went to India as High Commissioner and I visited one of the khanqahs, or the biggest one that is there in Ajmer, the shrine of Khaja Muinuddin Chishti, I asked the same thing, that why is it that you feel so beleaguered? Why do you not have more collaboration between your brothers in the other parts of the subcontinent? And his response was, he said in Urdu, Bhai kya kare, hum bahut dabav mein hain. So I said, pressure from where? I said, pressure from other strains of Islam competing with the strain that we preach. In a sense, our secularism is derived a lot from Hazrat Maulana Rumi. His was an Islam which was global. His Sufism appeals to people in the West as well as in the East, to not just Muslims, but to Christians, Jews, and Hindus and Buddhists. That is the sort of Islam that Turkey and we ascribe to. Turkey is a middle power. I would say it is a middle power, not just in the sense of the conventional IR sense. It's a middle power. It's a bridging power. It has a bridging role between East and West. And I see, perhaps I'm overstating, that we are perhaps also a rising but latent middle power. We are a bridge between South and Southeast Asia and East Asia. We both have this role to play. Turkey, the Turkeys, why is Turkey so concerned about the plight that the Rohingyas have posed on us? Turkey itself is host to a very, very large number of refugees from neighbors from across it. It is acutely aware of the dangers to its own security that arise from an insecure neighborhood. And that is the position we are in. That's another point where we both come together naturally. When Bangladesh was born, our preoccupation with peace was foremost in the minds of our founding father. He understood where we were. He looked at the map, his own position in the map. He said, how do I now ensure that this state that I've helped to create, lead our people into, how will it survive? We are India locked. We have different forces unleashed. In those days, Afghanistan and Myanmar were not problems. We had good relations with both the Afghan people as well as with the state and people of Myanmar. Today, it's a similar world, much more dangerous, to at least a new Cold War, perhaps a subset of that Cold War also emerging. We have Afghanistan and Myanmar exploding on our east and west. The different sort of conflicts, but conflicts still rage in the Middle East and in East Asia. And so therefore, his formula that we needed peace in the region and the globe, only with that we can survive as a nation and develop, worked for us for the last 50 years. We need to rework that formula, to reinvigorate it for the next 50 years. And that is where I think Turkey itself is discovering. Its long courtship with West Europe has not really produced the results that Mustafa Kemal Atatürk had envisaged. But now I think Turkey has overgrown that aspiration. It is a power and a civilizational power in its own standing, even without having to revisit the glories of Ertugrul and Suleiman Shah and others. You are now not just an emerging power, you are an established player in the region. And through that region, you are also in the globe. I think this is where our natural alliance should once again rediscover our intrinsic values to each other to help to create a more peaceful, more stable, a more humane world. If you're talking about secularism, I see the dangers of the revival of the narrative of the 30s threatening us in this region, threatening you in your region. We see a commonality in ensuring that the Indo-Pacific, and I don't mean the Indo-Pacific in the sense it's being touted by certain Western powers. I mean Indo-Pacific in a larger civilizational, contextual sense, where in a sense the Bay of Bengal was at the center of the world, bringing the Eastern and Western hemispheres together, allowing each other to trade with each other, allowing each other to rediscover or discover each other, allowing each other to to come into consonance with each other's cultures. And that is why you have this confluence of interests here, which I think we can both build on resolutely. So yes, the hard infrastructure that we talked about needs to be developed. We need to lessen our dependence on certain powers for a number of things, including in the defense sector. You have great strength in your infrastructure development capacities. You have been a great builder of lines of communication on land, road, and sea, particularly on land, over highways and railways. You were, in the early days of Pakistan, also a provider to our railway equipment and stuff. And I see a need for us to slowly swing away from over-dependence on our roads, which are very, very costly and difficult to maintain, to railways and waterways. And that is where I think you need to come in with your expertise, your proven and established track record of infrastructure development. You mentioned something in your own talk the other day about the Turkovac. You mentioned in your own remarks just now, a few minutes ago, about pharmaceutical and healthcare. Yes, we need a lot of assistance. That is something which I have been ad nauseum telling to all friends. Invest now on our human social network, the human welfare, human well-being network that we need to really buttress, because without, we always say that our population is our biggest resource. But what are we doing actually now to ensure the well-being of this population? Very, very little in terms of our own contribution, percentage of GDP to the health sector, and in terms of investment coming into this sector. I have talked to several of our own pharmaceutical company manufacturers here. Unfortunately, sadly, tragically, the emphasis is all on curative part of pharmaceuticals. I understand that it comes from the capitalist mind that if you have more people falling sick, you'll have more people to sell medicines to, so you keep to need expanding that. Not in the preventive side. I would say vaccine development is the preventive side, where you prevent people from falling sick or becoming mortally ill. And that is where you and we can join forces together. You have already, President Erdogan, I think in a message to the UN, has said that when the Turkovac is ready, he will share that technology with the world to prevent the spread of this virus. We are in the middle of Third World War. It is being waged by the coronavirus. And this war is going to be much longer than the combined periods of World War I and World War II. Let me assure you, I'm willing to stake my personal reputation on that statement. It is going to be here. The population of the world is close to 8 billion. They need all to be vaccinated, and they will need a booster dose at least once a year, if not more, because this vaccine will keep mutating. It will come and hit you in different forms. It was just 2 months ago when everybody in Europe and elsewhere saying, oh, we are past it, we are opening up. Now, Britain itself has huge a soar of people falling sick. The healthcare system is overwhelmed. It's happening in America, it's happening in Europe. It's just started reared its head in India. And if it's in India through a process of osmosis, it will come into Bangladesh. We cannot avoid it. It will just seep into Bangladesh osmotically. We are India locked. Our borders can never be hermetically sealed. It will happen. And so these are the realities which should bring us together. So I would certainly again hark back to why we should rediscover and give a renaissance to our Sufi culture, which had shaped our minds and still continue to drive it, even if subconsciously today. Because ultimately, it's the mind and the mindset and the attitudes that you have will translate into how you deal with your neighbors, with yourself, and with the rest of the world. And so I would not totally brush off the importance of symbolism and recreating that symbolism up in a large and magnified way in human consciousness in our societies. Because ultimately, we think with our minds. We don't think with our feet or with our motor car, driving in a motor car elsewhere. We think with our minds. And if the mind is conditioned to behave in a certain way, then your other reactions will come. Whether you will have peace or war will come from that. Whether you will have societies fighting each other on religion will come from that. And I see great danger around me all the time. Notwithstanding our proclamations of being secular and preserving, I see we practicing that, but I don't see that happening elsewhere. And in a sense, human beings always react to what is around them. They will respond to that emotively. And if that happens, you know what Shafkat talked about recently about our being in control, you can wipe out infrastructures of terrorism. How do you wipe out the idea that still keeps germinating and translating among people? How do you control that? You can never control that. It has to be first in how you shape the minds of the younger generation to look at the world, and then you can have the real foundation of peace. So I think I've talked more than I should have. Mustafa Bey, you have a lot on your plate to now respond to, but thank you for giving me this time, Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Tariq, for the excellent rendition of laying the basis.
Lost you.
Sir, you are muted.
You're muted. You're muted.
I'm sorry, this seems to happen automatically. Anyway, I'm just saying that thank you, Tariq, for that excellent rendition of the historical and spiritual basis of the relationship between Turkey and Bangladesh, and that we should, by thinking with our minds, rediscover the values that shape that relationship. I should be remiss if I did not mention the fact that in the region that I come from, which is Sylhet, there had been a very strong influence of Sufism, which has led to the syncretic Islam that is being followed there now and has spread from Sylhet to other parts as well. It's also true that the contribution of the Turkish rulers in the evolution of the consciousness of the East Bengali Muslims, which has ultimately found fruition in the nations of Bangladesh. All that is very true, and thank you very much for taking us back into our past and urging that we discover the gems that lie in the past relationship between our two communities and countries. I have a question which has been sent me by one of our listeners, who is AKM Moinuddin, a journalist. And this is a question addressed to the ambassador. The question is, Turkey has a vast experience in dealing with refugees, and Bangladesh is bearing a big burden of Rohingya refugees with no sign of the immediate repatriation to their homes in Myanmar. As Bangladesh is calling for burden sharing, do you think a third country settlement can be seen as a solution to ease the burden on Bangladesh? In other words, I think he's saying that if there could be a third country which would share the burden with Bangladesh, and if that is a solution. So this, among other things, you are requested to address in your final remarks, Mustafa Bey. So the floor is yours, Ambassador. Yes, Ambassador.
Yes. Thank you. I think all the three discussants who just spoke have complemented each other, and at certain times when they were speaking, I felt some goosebumps in my biology. Really, I mean, because I'm also learning. This part of the region, part of the world was not a region that I knew extensively before coming here, but I came with an open mind, an open heart, and I see that there is still a lot more to learn. Even about our bilateral relations, our shared history and shared values. So I'm grateful also to this opportunity for for creating this opportunity for me to learn more about our respective countries and our nations' history, especially Ambassador Tariq Karim's statements on the this historical interaction between Turkish and Bengali nations is so inspirational for even today and for our future. Intuitively, I was feeling this. Like I'm reading a lot, and some of those times Ambassador Karim talked about. I was feeling that there's something more to discover in that period of history, and that's why we actually decided to organize a year of cultural encounters throughout this year and next year, up until our National Day on the 29th of October next year. We will organize every 2-3 months cultural encounters on various themes. And we started intuitively again with Sufi encounters, early December, feeling that, this is the basis of our shared history. And we were right. I should also express our gratitude to the newly established Bangladesh-Turkey business platform. The companies from Bangladesh and Turkey have come together to support this year of cultural encounters. And we would like to continue with new themes. And just yesterday, I think Masranga TV has aired the Sufi encounters at our embassy on the 3rd of December. And we will explore and rediscover these roots. In Africa, there is this concept of Sankofa, like going back to your roots and fetching those roots and being inspired by those roots. And I think that's quite valid also for our country's relations. We should go back to our roots and fetch them and maybe be inspired by them for our shared future, for our shared vision for our future, for our partnership. So there's a lot to do in that front, and we would like to do this not sporadically or randomly, but I was talking to a few universities and academics who are willing to do some research on this shared history and cultural ties. So we will work on this. I was also in Silet 2 times recently, visited the mazar of Hazret Shah Jalal and Shahparan, and the Kadim in the mazar of Hazret Shah Jalal told me that the mother of Hazret Shah Jalal was from Konya. I mean, I knew there was some sort of a linkage there, but I didn't know so specifically that his mother was from Konya. And obviously, Konya and Silet are sister cities, and there's a lot more we can do. And the first thing I did after I visited for the first time was to bring the Sufi musicians and whirling dervishes to Silet. And the mayor of Silet was so kind to host us in a fantastic venue to which he invited many people from Silet. And we celebrated our shared culture and history together. And when we brought these musicians and whirling dervishes, the first half of the program, they would perform. And then the second half, the local artists and musicians would perform. And then the audience would see the links between the movements, the tunes of the music, between our cultures, Sufi traditions as well. And then we went to Chittagong, where there is another very strong Sufi tradition with Mazbandaria Tariqat, and we collaborated with them. They hosted us graciously. Again, they organized a seminar before the cultural program to talk about all of these issues. So I was extremely pleased that our intuitive initiative to start with Sufi encounters resulted in something beyond expectation. And those are recorded by Masranga TV and Nagorik TV, and they will broadcast, a documentary also on these encounters. So there's, as Ambassador Karim recommended, I think we should all try to rediscover and revive the bonds that we already have for the mutual benefit of our countries. I also appreciate Ambassador Karim's description of Turkey and potentially also Bangladesh as being not only middle powers, but also bridging powers. I truly believe in this. The world, as in the eyes of Samuel Huntington, is a place where clash of civilizations is taking place. But I never believed in that perception of the world. I believe human nature is much better than what Samuel Huntington is imagining. And people who believe in his theory, I believe that the human nature, as Rumi always brings us, he's our mirror. He's our mirror to show us our humanity. And I think there's a lot of goodness in human nature, which needs to be cultivated by the leaders, but also by all of us making a contribution to this revival. So Bangladesh and Turkey has a lot to offer in that realm of bridging different civilizations. And this comes basically, as was mentioned, from our different interpretation of Islam. It's more esoteric perception of life, going beyond the script, but also tapping into the inspiration that we gather through intuition and also transcendental practices to understand reality. So these are not insignificant issues for the modern world. I think going beyond this material world and tapping into our shared humanity is something is a skill that we all need in the 21st century. And Turkey and Bangladesh can offer a lot in this field. I think one aspect of our nations, which is prominently reflected in our foreign policy, is this love of humanity, but also expressed in hospitality. Hospitality not only at our own individual homes, but also in our countries, extended towards the people who are in need of support, refugees and displaced people. Turkey has opened its door to refugees, not only in the recent conflict in Syria, but also previously in Iraq, when Saddam Hussein has attacked its own people with chemical weapons. We pursued an open door policy, early 1990s. Similarly, when the regime in Syria attacked its own people, we opened our doors, and today we are hosting over 4 million refugees in Turkey. And it's also not by coincidence that the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has earned the title of Mother of Humanity by doing exactly the same, opening the door of Bangladesh to the Rohingya people who were fleeing from persecution and execution. So that these are not, again, insignificant, traits of our nations and our foreign policies. So Bangladesh, again, and Turkey have a lot to offer in this field to be examples to the rest of the world. I'd like to also mention this issue of the COVID-19 and how the world war, as was described by Ambassador Karim, is now taking place not in the battlefields but in the hospitals. I think our president's commitment to share the technology that we are developing currently in building our own vaccine called Turkavac will certainly be an avenue where we would like to see our partners around the world to join us in sharing that technology and serving humanity and making vaccines a global good, which was a call made by many wise leaders around the world. Unfortunately, the pharmaceutical industry, particularly in the West, is putting a lot of pressure on governments not to go down that way. I think Turkey and Bangladesh, again, have a lot to offer in that sense to become examples for the rest of the world. I'd like to also say a few words about defense cooperation, which was mentioned eloquently by Dr. Munir. And in that field also, similar to the vaccine issue, Turkey and our government is very much willing to share technology with our partners. Partners that we think are going to partner with us on the basis of mutual interests. And one distinguishing factor, in addition to our willingness to transfer technology, is that we never attach political conditionality to our defense industry cooperation, because we suffered a lot from that kind of approach, and we are still suffering. Some of our allies in NATO are putting a lot of political issues in front of us when it comes to our defense cooperation. Even if we paid our bills in advance, they shy away from fulfilling their own contractual obligations on some strategic matters. I don't need to name countries. You all know what I'm talking about. So that has led us, I think we should be grateful to those countries which kind of let us down in the most, in the times that we most needed them most. And that's why we are producing now 75% of our own defense industry products. And we are happy to share what we have with our partners. There are some projects in the pipeline, and I'm glad that we already signed a few agreements on this basis, which includes transfer of technology, and there are some new projects also coming up with the same understanding. And I think the government of Bangladesh is very happy to collaborate with us, since in this geostrategic competition over expanding the sphere of influence in this part of the world, Turkey positions itself not on any of the sides of this equilibrium, but rather, just like Bangladesh, tries to pursue a middle path. Not taking sides between, the Indo-Pacific, policy, free and open Indo-Pacific policy, or Belt and Road Initiative. We are actually, collaborating with all the great powers that are pursuing certain policies, but we have no attachment to any of the sides. So I think that provides us a neutral position and a reliable partnership possibility with Bangladesh. And I am particularly pleased to see the benefits of this position in our defense cooperation. So people-to-people contacts indeed are very significant. And, just recently, Foreign Minister Momen was in Turkey, and we have decided to increase the number of scholarships we provide to Bangladesh from 50 to 100. And lots of also students from Bangladesh are preferring Turkish universities now to study. They are getting to know the quality of our higher education in Turkish universities, and we will continue on, promoting these interactions. I fully agree that academic exchanges need to be strengthened between our countries, including the think tanks. There is a lot to discover more. I mean, in addition to going back to our roots, we also need to study more today and the future. So think tanks and academia are extremely important to shed light on, as the topic of our discussion today, on the future of our bilateral relations and what can be done. So just to conclude, I think Turkey and Bangladesh are on the verge of a brighter future as two brotherly and sisterly countries. We are sharing shared vision for our future, being a modern states with predominantly Muslim population, combining secularism with, tradition, modernity and tradition are reconciled in our countries. And there's a lot to learn from each other. And on that basis of shared learning, we can do a lot more. There are obviously international avenues such as D8, where we can work together more closely. I was dealing with D8 matters when I was back in Ankara, and also after Bangladesh has taken over the chairmanship of D8, I attended D8 meetings in Dhaka, and there is a lot more ambition in D8 to become a meaningful platform for international cooperation among predominantly Muslim states. Obviously, Turkey and Bangladesh, we don't base our foreign policy on religion. I mean, we are secular countries, but it's a fact that there's a lot of injustices done towards Islam and Muslims around the world. And we have to stand up against these injustices and become the role models for the Muslim countries to really complete their economic development and become a force for good in international relations. Our president, whenever he addresses the United Nations General Assembly, he repeats relentlessly that the world is bigger than five. So there is room for countries like Turkey and Bangladesh to make their own influence for the betterment of international relations globally. And I believe that in the coming years, we will work closer together and towards that objective. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Your final remarks were just as important and as significant as your initial keynote. I'm also very glad that you found these discussions useful, because that is also the purpose of Cosmos Foundation, in order to provide an opportunity for ambassadors to sort of to act as a multiplier, as if it were, of ambassadorial capacities to deliver. And I'm sure that I'm glad to hear that you have found these discussions useful. Your later remarks also contain some substantive points, of course. And finally, your mention of D8 being a force for good in international relations, and Turkey making efforts towards that. Well, all good things must end at some point in time, and so must this webinar. It has been a fascinating discussion, of course, and we've all learned from it. As I would like to underscore as chair, that all participants today actually made very useful contributions. I'd like to thank Inayatullah Khan, of course, for hosting us, and Catherine and Nahar and the Cosmos team for their relentless efforts in rendering this event the success that it has been. I shall not, of course, attempt to summarize the discussion, but if there is one takeaway from it, a single thesis, as scholars say, it is that Bangladesh-Turkey relationship is greater than the sum of its parts. With these words, I would declare these discussions closed and hand over the floor to our host, Mr. Inayatullah Khan, for his final statement. So, Inayat, the floor is yours.
Each discussant, and especially the keynote speaker, Ambassador Mustafa Osman Turan, I think we have all been very open and very candid. And I think a lot of things have come out of our emotional feelings. And I think when I was in the morning, I was thinking how this, this webinar will roll out. I think it has exceeded my expectation, beyond my imagination, I would say, because I now feel that there's so much that we can do to build our relationship based on trust, based on the basis of the common history, the culture that we share for not for 100 years, but for thousands of years. And in fact, Ambassador Tariq Karim gave me some of these historic notes, and I was fascinated. And Ambassador Turan, you're right. In this kind of forum, we learn so much from each other. And that is the biggest thing. And that's Cosmos Dialogue's fundamental vision and mission is to encourage this kind of sharing of thoughts and ideas. And today I'm very happy that our Cosmos Foundation, this Ambassador Lecture Series has really is proving very, very useful. I have to mention my visit to Istanbul, where I was representing Bangladesh in the World Congress of News Agencies. And I believe that that was the biggest conference that I ever attended in Istanbul. And President Erdogan was there. And what a wonderful time we had. And that was, I would like to revisit Turkey. And I think given the knowledge and the exchange of thoughts and ideas that we have had this morning, I am very tempted to publish something to reflect our growing ties. And I would request each participant that we try to contribute towards this book or brochure, whatever it is. I would anticipate that by 2022, the first half, this book should be out. And I think there's so much, the Sufism. I'm very deeply, at the personal level, in the last 2 years being in COVID, I try to read more. In fact, on Sufism, Rumi, Baul. So all these things together, combined together, people to people, I think Turkey could be our most stable partner in global shifting, this geoeconomics, geopolitics. I think we need to rebalance, reconfigure our relationship, and the time is now. And Ambassador Turan, I think we will work closely, whatever we can do to enhance and reinvigorate our relationship. We are there for. And with these few words, I'd like to say goodbye, and I want to wish everybody a very joyous 2022 and a very merry season. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and a Happy New Year to all of you as well.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Stay well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.